Well, good morning, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our webinar this morning, Sage 300 CRE Enhanced Custom Report Writing. My name is Troy Guevara, and I'm a construction technologist with Digitech Solutions. I have joining me today James Coyle, who is one of the co-founders of Event One Software and the creators of the Office Connector line of products. Before we get started, though, I've got a couple housekeeping items that I would like to go over. James, you click to that next slide.
Yeah. It's got a little delay, but just hang there. Come on,
right.
Transition, my friend. There we go. Sorry.
Right. No problem. Okay, so just a couple housekeeping items. The audio is available. It should be available through your computer speakers, or if you've called in, you should be hearing it through your phone. I guess if you're not hearing me, then obviously your audio is not available. All attendees have been muted to provide for a clean listening experience. This session will be recorded, and the recording will be sent to you tomorrow, so you can view it at your leisure. Of course, you can share it with others in your office that may have interest. And if you've not already done so, we recommend maximizing your screen to take full advantage of the screen real estate. Questions can be submitted through the webinar dashboard, either on the questions tab or the chat tab, and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. We expect this to last about 40 minutes. With some Q&A. It may go a little bit longer depending on what questions come up. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to James. James, thank you for being here today.
Well, Troy, thank you very much for that excellent introduction, and thanks everyone. I've been affiliated with this technology, the Sage 300 construction real estate product line for 35 years in construction and cost accounting, estimating, all that, and of course, this technology here, well versed in it. So we're going to give you an overview of the product suite. We'll focus a lot on the reporting, but we'll also touch upon the ability to efficiently touch information once and get that information back into the system. So we'll be able to do that and give you a really nice overview in the time provided, and also then of course have time for questions and what have you. So these are the types of things we're going to be covering. We want to make it clear that we are aware there are certain roadblocks to success or efficiencies in working, especially in the present situation out there that we're all dealing with. So producing reports or putting information in the hands of the stakeholders in your company and then being able to collaborate is a challenge, especially more so even today. And you're going to find through this presentation that this technology, that's its sweet spot. It really is compelling in the ability to interact and collaborate, even if you're not doing so face to face. So that'll be very clear through what we're going to show you. We've heard people, that want to get information and arrange it the way that it's desirable, and Excel often provides that. So people tend to try to push information into Excel, like from inquiry or a report, like Crystal or a report designer, and that's what people have done. But the information's static. So what you'll see today is the ability to accomplish that far more effectively, putting the information you want where you want, and doing that just once. So you don't have to keep doing it. Then once you've done that, then refreshing is going to be established. So another extremely compelling thing is that the financial reporting in Sage has accumulated information up to 10 years back, assuming you've been using Sage that long. But the legacy report writing for financials doesn't tap into it beyond 2 years. And in this time, with audits probably lagging and what have you, many companies are faced with their general ledger still perhaps in December, but needing to do financials January, February, March, April, May. Well, one of the benefits of Sage 300 is that it keeps a future balance, future activity for up to 6 months. But the legacy financials does not leverage this, so you have to go through a process to get a report. But we have, I think, something that you're going to find very compelling here. So we know that's a pain point. Of course, manually putting information into Sage that you might arrive at from outside, from a human resource situation or whatever, being able to see the tables you want and update just what you want, that's a challenge. And then just frankly, producing and editing reports with minimal help that you might be able to be successful. So these are the pain points that we're aware of, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. So in doing so, we've got your Sage 300 Construction Real Estate product line, and then we have how you may want to work with that information. So the example I have here is a cost forecasting type of a thing, where I'm getting information staged, it's current, but I want to get information from someone else, perhaps someone in the field. Now this could also be an accounts receivable aging, where we're looking at the confidence we're going to get our money in and we're interacting, or a financial that people are interacting with. So you have it formatted in a desirable way, but normally you have to push the data into Excel and manipulate it to get it this way, and that's time consuming. And we're working with thinner resources these days, so ideally we want to accomplish this with less effort and then be able to collaborate. So that's what we're talking about here. The query capability for Office Connector allows me from inside of Excel to connect to my Sage from a formatted workbook, perhaps. So, and you'll see me, I'll build something from nothing right in front of you, so you see that can happen. And that's the Launchpad reports that you'll see are all built that way, the same way you would do it. It's just that many of them are already done and ready to go. Now, if I were collecting information, comments, or in this case, cost to complete, or whatever it is that I'm collecting, if sometimes you want to get that data back into Sage, and you could look at the spreadsheet and type it in, but why would you do that? You know, if you're doing budgeting for general ledger, why would you do it in Excel and then type that in? You do it if you didn't know better, but we have the capability to automate that. So we have the capability to write the information or import, and they're similar in concept, but they're different. And we can advise you as to what the right technology would be, depending on what it is that you're trying to do. And we'll give you examples here today. And just to remind that this is recorded, so you're to be able to reference back to what I'm saying here. Now, related to querying, producing a report is financial reporting. And it's a little bit different, because a query is really a connection to the actual data in Sage, the data on jobs or vendors or detailed transactions. But a financial is a derivative process. You're deriving a value based on the accounts you want included, perhaps prefixes depending on your situation, and time periods you want to run it for. I want to run it for next January, February, March, April, and I haven't closed my year. So I need to derive my current balance and activity as of whatever month, or a comparative financial where I'm comparing something from now and a year ago or 3 or 5 years ago. So that's a derivative process, and we that is not the easiest thing to do if you're just pushing data into Excel and manipulating it. But we're going to show you the easy button, and that will be Office Connector Financial. So you'll see that. So with the querying, focusing on the querying, this is what you can use to either run a report that's already created, just a consultant created for you, or a Launchpad report that's already ready to go, or evolve a report the way you want it to work. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the ability to do that. And we're going to do that right off the bat here. One of the benefits of this is that because it's in Excel, you can have information from Sage right next to information that's not Sage, that you just type in, or a formula, or maybe from some other source of information. For example, there's another Excel-based reporting technology called Liberty Reports that would work with Sage's estimating. So if you had that side-by-side reporting from your estimate and your actuals, yep, you could do that. So lots of possibilities here. So when we do this, you can then take that information, people can review it in a report that's familiar to them, a layout like Excel, and put comments next to that. And of course, you can easily modify design reports that may have already been created for you. It just depends on what the person did. If a consultant, someone did that, sometimes people, when they build a report, will make it on purpose less easy to change, because you want to protect the integrity of what it is that you created, like perhaps a password in Excel or whatever. So all of those things still resonate in what you would be doing with this technology. then again, when we talk about Office Connector, these are the points that we want to focus on, and cover here. Troy, just bear with me just a second. I have a issue here. Sorry. We're all working from a more home-based type of situation, so things crop up that we don't expect. I saw a news report where a lady's father came out, from the back room during the presentation. That won't be happening here today. So we're going to do the demonstration right now for Office Connector, and I want to first start with what you'd see like when you install it. Office Connector is installed when you install Sage. Now that's the starter templates, the ones that are complementary, and we're not going into those. We're going into the ones that you would utilize if you just acquired like the query or what have you. And so these are the reports that are ready to go, that are available to you. And this Launchpad is a place that you can create the workbooks from those templates, or you can get information on the different products or getting help or getting started or what have you. All of that would be here on this Launchpad. So that's one way to get access to what would come with Office Connector. Another way would just be your Sage desktop. This being a Sage product, if you look under Excel-based reporting, and there are different desktop layouts, so but in the default one, you'll see this area right here, like About Office Connector. These are those the starter templates that I mentioned. But that right there, that option there, the Launchpad, would bring up where I started, that list of all those reports. So that's another way to get access to this and the information. If you see this and you try to get access to it and for some reason you're unsuccessful, it's probably because after the installation of Sage, maybe your IT group didn't see how you were using it and whatever. It hasn't, the Office Connector in your environment isn't set up to function, and your Digitech consultant or support can easily help you resolve that, so you get access to all of this. Another way to access these, again, being Sage reports, is right here on your report menu. So when any of those Launchpad reports or something that you create or something created for you, you can run them from right here. So as you see, I have a menu option for a cost to complete report right there. And right here in Report Manager, if I hit New, I can just put it right there, right? It's just another report, like Report Designer or Crystal. Office Connector is an option. So if I wanted to run a report from this, all I would have to do is come here, click this, and then click that button, whatever report I have. And now, because you have Excel, remember it's Excel, so you go out to Excel to see it, this workbook was created from that report template. And now I have a cost to complete workbook, and I can then start that process. So in this case, maybe I'm going to put in this sort of information, right? Parameters like the job I want to do, see, and a cutoff date. And then when I refresh my report right here, so it's just a button, so you can see, you can make these reports, Excel-based reports, very, very simple and intuitive to navigate. And then I'm going to see a cost to complete sheet with information current for that job. And I could then save this in a forecast workbook and enter another job, and very quickly I have all my forecast reports for all my jobs, and I can now collaborate. So this is what we were talking about earlier about the information from your Sage being drawn right into an Excel workbook. So this is current information right from your Sage. It just happens to be in the format desirable, at least in this format, for cost forecasting. And then a column for me to be able to put in what's really happening, my cost to complete or cost at completion, however it is that you do it. And as we said earlier, notes, and they stay on the correct row. So if I refreshed and I had more cost codes later, and so this cost code might be 4 rows lower on the list, the data you enter will stay with the correct cost code. And this is just one example. Some people would do this sort of a thing at a category level, but this is an example of the kinds of things that you can produce with Office Connector. So Troy, did you want to chime in and add anything before I show an example of creating something from nothing?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to close this. And so I've just talked to you about how you can access it, how you can find it. And what I used right there was Office Connector Query and a standard license. So there's different licenses, and we'll talk about those. That's a very affordable license. It's concurrent use, so it's to be shared. And I'm just refreshing data into it. So I'm going to close that. I'm not going to save that. And so now I'm going to focus on, instead of how the end result, like building something from nothing. So you kind of understand what's possible. Now, whether you want to build your own types of reports or have them built for you by a consultant or maybe a combination, this still is very important, knowing what you can access and where you can put information. So when I'm looking at an empty Excel sheet and I'm thinking to myself, what do I want? So let's say what I want is detail, some transactional detail, maybe from general ledger, right? So I'm looking at detail, and I've got sample data. You'd be having your live data. I'd say, I want to look at information from 1/1/2015 through 5/31/2015, whatever that range of dates is. And the point here is I'm not going to push it in there and it'll be static. I build it once, and I want to be able to change these dates and have my report change. So how would I do that? It's very simple. I'm just going to put my active cell where I want my upper left-hand corner of my report, and here under add-ins is where the Office Connector toolbar is. Okay, so I'm going to use this option right here, which is the query wizard, and I click it, and it's saying, okay, so what's your data folder? Now, these are my data folders. You have your own. So when you pick your data folder, if you haven't already generated a workbook, I have, it would ask you to put in your Sage login and password. This is Sage technology, so it's going to prompt you for your Sage information. And you would only have access to the tables that you set up in security to have access, outside of Sage. So you can control who has access to, payroll or GL or whatever. But in this case, I'm presented with all these tables that I could pull from. So a common question is, can I have data from multiple tables in one report or in one sheet? And the answer is absolutely. It's whatever you can think of, whatever you want. Now, in my example, I said I wanted general ledger. So I just typed in the GL and I jumped right down here to these GL tables. And you see there's a lot of detail, but I want the detailed transactions. And this is what an auditor would be wanting right now. So I'm going to pick this and I hit next. And now it's asking me, what columns from that table out in Sage do you want here? So I'm going to come through here, and I can either use my mouse to click on something, or I can just use my up and down key and hit the space bar. And I can pick whatever it is that I want and feel like I need. Just pick it and pop it in there. You can, with Excel, have quite a few columns, and you can restrict which ones show by default by using Excel's grouping. So Excel-based reporting adds a lot of advantages over the traditional printed out to the screen or a piece of paper. You can have everything you need, but only see what you have to see until you want to know more. But I'm just going to, at this point, hit next. And now it's asking me, okay, so you've told me I want general ledger transactions reported here. Do you want all of them, or do you want to limit it? And I want to limit it. I want this range of dates, the dates in B, 2, and 3, whatever dates are in there. So I hit add condition, and I say the accounting date is greater than or equal to, so accounting date, and then the operator, and then what am I comparing it to? And I'm not going to compare it to a static thing. I want it to be the value in a cell. That's a parameter. So I put B2 right here, right? That's the values in B, that whatever date is in B2, that's what I want to use. And if it changes, I want to use the changed date. And I'm going to add another condition that the accounting date is less than or equal to the date in B3. So it's very simple, and you see so this is a very visual product. So that's probably why so many people, there's over, I think we're closing on 3,000 customers and well over 10,000 concurrent uses being used at any one time. And this is why it can be quite easy. So this is the name of the report. I can call it what I want. that, it's a query of transactional data, but I could change its name, because you could, in an Excel workbook, have all sorts of reports. And you'll see me in some of my examples that I'll have that kind of situation. But I'm just going to keep it simple and hit finish. And now I'm going to have the results for my general ledger for that range of dates here. So if I wanted to focus in only on like March to there, I could say, well, I don't want all of these. I just want 3/1/2015 through 5/31. So the January and stuff, that should go off my report. So if I right click my data, my report, I can hit refresh, like so. Or on the toolbar up here, that lightning bolt will refresh. And in my other example that I showed you, the forecast report, I didn't even have to do that. I had a little button that said refresh. That's just a feature of Excel. And these are things that we teach you when you take training classes. You don't have to have a lot of training to get up to speed on this. You take some training and you apply it. And you'll find you're going to learn this faster and faster. So I've got a number of columns of information, but if I wanted to control how that report looked, with most report writers, you have to learn how. But with this, it's Excel. So if I want that to be the background color, or I want to bold the font, or I want to remove grid lines, that's not Office Connector, that's just Excel. Lots and lots of people know how to do that. And filter controls and stuff like that. But let's say I wanted to then do something more. Like this data is just going to constantly be refreshed anytime I want. But what would I want to do with this? Well, a lot of times what people want to do is create a pivot table. So if I click pivot table, I can then that's how easy it is. It's just a part of Excel. So that's what we talk about. You can leverage the power of Excel. So let's say what I want is the dates in the columns. I wouldn't normally do that, but I'm just having fun here. And maybe I have the account in the rows, and then I have the debit and the credit in the body. Well, there you go. So now I see all these dates and accounts. And if I then want to see what makes up that number right there, then when you click it, it drills into the detail, right? That's just how a pivot table is. So all the details already here in my report, right? It's right here. But this, I can have control over the presentation of the information with things like pivot tables and charts and graphs. So that's one way you might utilize this technology. And another way is something like more precise. So let's say like someone asked me for certain information and I just want to assemble it. So maybe I'll do a reconciliation between job costs and GL or something like that. That would normally be not easy. You wouldn't want to do that, but it's totally easy with this. So it's the same sort of thing. If I said I want to look at detail in a range of dates, and then I'm going to get it from multiple sources, here's how easy it is. So that's the range of dates. Could change. So what I want is right here, I want the GL accounts that have debits and job costs. That's what I want here. And in other columns, I want the amount from job costs and the amount from GL. So how would I do that? I would do it the same way that I just showed you. I'd come here and I do a query, right? So there's my query. And in this case, I'm looking at not GL transactions right at this point. I'm looking at job cost transactions to start with. So I'm coming down here and saying, okay, I want to look at job cost transactional data, and right there. And then I'm saying, so there's lots of columns, and job cost has a lot of information for all sorts of things. But what do I want? I want my debit account. That's all I care about. I want a debit account, and I don't want to look at transactions that don't have debit accounts. So I'm going to add a condition that the debit account out there in job cost is not equal to blank. So in your mind, think of what I'm trying to do here. I'm looking at all the millions of transactions in job costs, but I'm trying to organize it efficiently to give it to someone. You use the same approach if you're doing a report of employees and jobs they worked on, or whatever thing you could think of. It's this easy to do it. Just a matter of thinking and applying. So that's the debit account not equal to blank is what I want. And it is a query of the job cost transactions, But in this case, I'm going to exclude duplicate rows. If there's a debit account, list it, but just list it once. I don't want a million rows. So I'm going to hit finish, and now I have a unique list of my debit accounts. So then what do I want? Well, let's say I want the name, and maybe I want the current balance. Well, where is that data inside of Sage? It's in General Ledger. So in this case, I'm not going to use a query. I'm going to use these formulas. So Office Center is a combination of these two things. The ability to grab detail, look at detail, but also the ability to focus in. So in this case, I'm going to use this lookup function, and I'm going to say, I want you to look up, not in job cost, I want you to look up in General Ledger on the account table, because that's, if you know your Sage, and your consultant would know if you didn't, the account table will have it. So where is the account number for this row? It's visual, see, it's D6. So put right here. Now I'm going to put in $D6 because I want this row to be D7, and if I copy the formula to the right, I don't want it to be changed. I want it to lock on D6. So that's Excel. That I'm just you're building an Excel formula is really what I'm doing right here. Now I'm just grabbing the title and the current balance, right? And I'm hitting finish. So there's the result of the formula, and that's the Office Connector, the Sage Office Connector formula that says go look on that table and get me the results. So now I have data from two different sources on the same report. So now what I want my job cost amount for that account, that range of dates, and here I want the GL, right? This is going to be the GL related amount. So where's the job cost? The data is out in Sage. It's sitting in the table. I don't have it here in Excel. And I don't want it in Excel. I just want to grab the value in Sage and put it right there. So if you have other reports you typically create and they're already finished and you go through a long process to get that, this is what we're talking about, is don't do that. Just create the connectivity back to Sage once. And then that saves a lot of time, right? So I'm going to tell it, sum up the data, but in this case, sum it up in the job cost transaction table. So it says, well, what do you want to sum up? There's a lot of stuff. And I say, well, sum up the amount. That's what I want. And then it's asked me, so you want all the job cost transactions? And I go, no. I want it if the debit account equals what? The debit account in D6. So I'm going to put in $D6 right here. And then I want that range of dates over here, right? So I'm going to add another condition that the accounting date up here is greater than or equal to that date right there in B2. So I'm going to put it, now because it's a formula, I'm going to put in $B, $2. And the reason is that if you build an Excel formula and you copy it down, it would increment, B3, B4, B5, and the dates just in B2. So that's not Office Connector, that's Excel right there. So I'm going to add a condition that the accounting date's less or equal to $B, $3. Okay, so those are my conditions. I hit finish, and that's my job cost amount. So I copy the formula down. I'm just the little black box there. If you double click it, it'll copy the formulas down. So if you have a lot of rows, you don't have to worry. So now it's very simple. I'm building it in steps, and we did this on purpose because normal people, regular people, are more successful if they can build a report in steps versus trying to be a programmer and figure it all out. So in this case, I want to sum up the data, but not in job cost. I want the data that comes from General Ledger, the transaction table in General Ledger. So what do I want? Now in this case, I'm going to say I want the debit and the credit, because if people are crediting that account, that's going to throw off my reconciliation, right? So I'm saying, give me the debit and credit out in General Ledger if the account number in GL equals the account number that I have here in D6. It's exactly the same thing I did in the job cost formula. So you see, once you learn one thing, it's just kind of you're building upon that one thing. So then I want the accounting date to be greater than or equal to what's in $B, $2, which is exactly what I just did in the preceding form, and it's less than what's in B3. Right? So there you go. And I hit finish, and I got my debit and credits, and I copy it down. So now in this case, it might be fine, but I would normally want to net those two, right? So I'd use Excel and I'd say, I want to add this, plus this to get the net from General Ledger. So did that come from Sage? No, I just made a formula right there. So as we said, you can combine data that are formulas that you type in that came from some other source. And I could also have a conditional print that said if the value in job cost and the value in GL are different, to change the color so that I can see it easier. Can you see that that's advantageous? That if you ran a report like this, then right when you might have a problem, you notice it immediately. And the sooner you find out you have a problem and fix it, the easier it is. This technology helps you do that. So Troy, anything you want to add? That was what I wanted to show for the query capability. And now I'm going to show financials real quick.
No, this is fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, great. So as you saw, like when I did my first example, I just pulled all this detail right out of Sage. I'm pulling it right out, or I pull it from the various tables, the values right on there. And I can pull really anything and make it the way I want. So if I looked at my Launchpad, there's a number of reports, and the very first one we ever created that we thought many people might like was this quick view, which is a controller's dashboard. So dashboards are a very common thing that people want. So just to show you, this is very similar to what I just did, but it's data from all sorts of things. Like these are general ledger, job costs, and see how it's got conditional printing that if I have unposted entries, I better take care of those before I close the month, right? And so you have a dashboard. You can build it how you want to build it, the same way as I just built the other one. And you could add another tab here to do a query of the transactions so that if you see unposted ones, you could put a hyperlink between this to the transaction report. And so if there's a problem, you can immediately see what makes that problem up. That's all just Excel. And we covered that in our training. It's not hard. If this is new to you, then, it can be a bit overwhelming, so we don't want to go into too much detail. But I think you get the idea that I can assemble data the way I want, and it really doesn't matter how many tables. I just have to think about what it is that I want. But I'm pulling it directly out of Sage. But if I come into my Sage and I look at my general ledger reporting, financial reporting is actually a bit different than that. It's not, so if I came into general ledger, this is my general ledger, it's not yours, so you'll have a different scenario, of course, but your screen will look the same. And here you see my account numbers. I've got my account number, the name, the type of an account, and now I've got this current situation with this account. The current balance is this, depending on what my current period is, right? That's the current balance. This is the total of all my future balances, and then here's my activity. So this is my current month right now in this data folder. It's 5/31/2015. This is 1 month in the future, 2, 3, 4, 5. Many people on this phone call, your current month is probably December. And this would be January, February, March, April, May if you have a calendar year end. Well, that means your current balance is as of December. It's not as of January or February or March, but the data's here. I could derive it. So a financial is a derivative function. The current balance for next month is my current balance plus my activity for next month. That will be my current balance, and so on and so forth. So that's what you have to accomplish when you do financial reporting. And you also have to take into consideration, and each company could be different, but what the fiscal controls are. So in Sage, when we implemented we can set you up so that you can have different companies. You may just have one, but some people have quite a few. And there's fiscal controls. So that's like what your current period is for one company or entity versus another. And frankly, this is where we set up that calendar. Like this particular one, its first period 1 is January and 12 is December. But you could have period 1 being November, right? Because you have an October year in it. It wouldn't matter. You cannot normally consolidate accounts like that. But what I'm about to show you, you can. You can do so much. So On the launch pad, you've got the financial reports right here. And these come with it. So if you got a query standard in financials and Troy can follow up and let you know, like tell him what you want, he can tell you what you need, then you'll get all of these right here out of the box and be able to do something from nothing, which is what I'm going to do. So I've already generated one of those reports. So let's just go ahead and have a look at that. So this is a financial statement with drill down. It's one of those off-the-shelf reports. I can come in here and I can say prefix groups, just like I can do in Sage's financials, the legacy financials. I give it a name and what the prefixes are. Or I could say consolidate all my prefixes or run it for just one entity. But over here, I can tell it what I want on my report. So here I can say the fiscal year. Well, what if I've been using, like for you, it's 2020, but you've been using Sage for 5 years? What if you wanted to see what a financial was for 5 years ago? You don't have to restore from backup. You would, right now you do, but not with this. You just would say 5 years ago, we'll put the period in and hit refresh and it will calculate it. It will derive it. So it's amazing what this technology does. So I could then get a trial balance, a balance sheet, and a profit and loss. But if someone was looking at this, they might say, well, hold it a second here. When I'm looking at this, I see this accounts receivable, or I see this. What makes up that number right there? Well, you would normally have to go run another report to show them, right? And that's what an auditor would have to do. But you don't have to do that with this. Here's the report. It's right here. I put it there on purpose. Why? Because I can. It's just Excel-based reporting. You could do a lot more than you can with most other reportings. So there's nothing in here yet because I haven't tried to get into anything. But if I said, I want to look at this, I can tell it, this is drill down. To pass the parameters, and right now, boom, it pulled from my GL. So it's an instantaneous thing reflecting what's currently in GL. This overcomes a lot of objections people have to Excel-based reporting about, like, well, how do I know the information is accurate and all that? It's accurate as of just that second because it's grabbing the data right when you tell it to. So to allow you to utilize this and collaborate, it's easy, right? And we eliminate the objections that people typically have to Excel. Anything you want to add to this, Troy, before I demonstrate how easy it is just to build something from nothing with financials?
The only thing I would add is that there's companies that they have the tools, but they don't do a good job of getting the information into Sage to be able to have this sort of real-time data, right? So that's critical.
Oh,
to have those
that's a good point.
in your company to be able to do that. If this data is coming in a month later, of course, the data in the report will be off. So those are essential things to understand. And there are tools within Sage beyond Office Connector that can help with that. And I'm happy to have that discussion.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, because that's the thing, garbage in, garbage out. If your data in there isn't accurate, then it's not the reporting. The reporting is accurately showing you. It's that you expected it to be different than it is because something wasn't done or whatever. So very good point. But people can use this technology to gain a lot of visibility. And I've heard CFOs and VPs, when this was first released, someone I had implemented, they had looked at it and they bought like 4 concurrent uses. And then a little while later, they called and ordered 2 more. And I was like, okay, well, we'll process your order, but why? Because the person was tight with his money. He goes, oh, you don't know what you created. I have visibility and of any data I need, and I can assemble it. I don't have to just kind of make do with what's there. Plus, I have the ability to socialize it, right? Once I produce a financial, I can collaborate, and that. So I enabled them to be more successful. At least we did. That's what was the benefit was. So to them. Okay, so I'm going to show you how these work, right? Because I'm not going to spend all the time looking at each one because I'm going to show you how you could see each one, the finished result. Instead, I'm going to show you something very simple to help you understand how the financial function works because it's so powerful and lots of people are acquiring it right now because of the present situations. So the first thing is that in the data folder I'm using for this is it's a property management, a developers folder. So it's got a prefix structure of like AB and then a base account. So it may be a little bit different than yours, but it's very interesting because I've got one prefix that its current period, its year end is November, and other ones that have December, and I want to combine them. And you can't do that with the legacy financials, or really most financial reporting out there. You can't do that, or if the data is in different folders. But you can overcome that with this technology. So how does it work? So right here, you just see a list of accounts. These are my accounts. Yours may be different, but and then I have a number of companies, and I just want all of the accounts that start with 100. That's what I want on this particular report. Now I want it for this year and period. So if the data is in Sage, then I can pull it out, but I have to derive it. If it's not my current period, then it has to be derived. So how would I do that? Simple. You come here to the function selector, and then all the functions that are part of Office Connector are all listed here, including that lookup that I showed you earlier. But I'm going to use this GL amount function. Now there are these other helper functions that are part of financials, but this is the one that really is doing the heavy lifting. So as you see, it's just a GL function or an Excel function. It's Sage specific, and it accepts parameters like what prefix or prefixes do you want? What base account or range of accounts do you want? What year and period in Sage are you looking at? Tell me whatever you want. I'll go find what you need. Here's the what kind of amount do you want to return? So these are the different things that it can return. It can return the balance as of that period. It could do the actual activity for that period, whatever the period happens to be, and the year-to-date activity through that period, and all these other things. And then it can grab budgets and partners and data folders. It's all just parameters. So that makes it really simple. So I'm going to insert this and see how it's prompting me. So it says, well, what prefixes? Well, my prefixes are here. But in that other example I showed you, the prefixes on that sheet, it had a name and it had values in column 1, 2, 3, 4 of the different prefixes. So it can be just a list of prefixes or a range. It's whatever you want. But in my case, I just want all of them that start with 100. And then it says like, well, what base account? Well, I'm in row 9. My base account's in B9. So I'm going to say $B9. Oops, beg your pardon. I hit enter and not. Well, it's pretty simple, right? All I have to do is come right back here and hit insert. I could have edited the formula, but it would have been confusing to you. I just want it to be easy. So let me not hit that. So I grab my prefix again, put in $B9. And then the fiscal year is here right currently it's in E4 for me. So I'm going to say use whatever year is there and use whatever period is right there. And then what amount do I want? This is activity. So on that list, it was period activity, right? That's to get the activity. And so if I hit OK, that does work. You don't see it, but I'm going to copy that down. And as you see, these accounts do have values for that period. Well, what if I wanted it for 4? I go, oh, no, it wasn't 5. It was period 4 of that year. I just put what I want, and the formula, see, it instantly changed. The formula does all the work for you. So now I'm going to copy this formula over, and now I have 2 identical formulas. See how easy it is? But I don't want this formula to be activity. I want this one to be balance. So I'm just going to change this word to balance. That's what the formula said. So once you learn how to use it, it's not difficult. Then now you can put the data where you want it to be, right? So copy that down. So I got activity and balance next to each other. Now I had demonstrated this lots of times and then have people say, well, what if I wanted the activity through that period, or I wanted this or that? And I was like, I just showed you all of that. Like, listen to the recording, cover that again. I'm just going to take it a little further. So what I did is I went ahead and I have right here the same exact thing you saw, but what I have here is a spin box of all the different amounts that it could return, right? Because I got that out of the help. So here it's year-to-date activity, but if I wanted it to be period activity, I just change it. See how all the amounts changed? So you might say, wow, that's amazing. It's not. It's totally easy. How did I do that? I came over here and I typed the amount types off that help. You saw them. It was in the help. I just typed them in there. And then on here, right here, I went to data And in data validation, you can just point at a list. So it's not difficult to do these things. But I had people say, well, what if I wanted a quarter, or I want whatever, one prefix next to another? So, well, totally easy. So here I've got the same thing, but in different columns, I can put whatever I want. So in this column, in my example, I just have period 4, 5, and 6, and I add them together. But that I could have different prefixes in one column versus another, and whatever I want, right? And then this is Excel's grouping, right? So there's the quarter, but now I'm seeing the detail. It's that easy. If you play around with it, you're like, if you've ever manually done this, try to create a financial and GL from data in any system, you're like, seriously, is that all there is? Yep, because the formula does all that work. Trey, anything you want to add to that before I want to respect the time? I just want to touch on two other aspects of Office Connector so that people are aware.
Yeah, go ahead. We've got a couple more minutes. So
couple minutes. Okay. So as we said, this particular presentation, it said that we're focusing on the reporting, and we've covered that. The reports are here, and if you go out to where it says Event One Software, the Event One Software website. So Event One is creates Excel-based reporting for Sage 100, 300, estimating. But if you come over here to the products, and Troy can provide you a link to this. If you come to Office Connector, it will show you the reports included with Office Connector. So if I came over to Query and said, I want to look at those reports and just see what's there. So here's the list of reports right there. And you said, you're looking through there and you go, like the cash flow one or reconciliation or weather or whatever. So whatever report you want to see, all you're going to do, I'll do this batch analyzer. I click this and it's going to show you screenshots. Like, well, in this report, you can put in whatever batch, the application origin and a range of dates, and it will show you if you're in proof. Auditors love this report, by the way. And then there's another screenshot there of the actual detail. Like, say it's showing you each application and the detail. But let's say, because this question would come up for you at some point, I wanted to generate a report with Office Connector, but I want to share it with someone who doesn't have it, like my CPA. Could I do that? And the answer is yes, you could. So this right here is a save as values copy of that batch analyzer template. So if you generated a report, any of those that you created, and you want to give it to someone, you just click a button to save as values, and then it's just an Excel workbook. So you could do both. So that's how you get all of them. But if the other aspects of Office Connector that we want to plant a seed for you is the ability to write and import. So just a quick example of each, just so you're kind of aware of what we're talking about. This is an example of budgets in GL, right? They would be useful for that financial reporting. So lots of people do that in Excel. Well, this one I have all my accounts and I can type in my budgets or sum them up off of other sheets or whatever. But once they're here, how do I get them into General Ledger? Do I have to manually type them? And the answer is no. You can come right here and you can write those values and it will put them directly in, saving you time. And we have, Sage has recorded presentations on write and import. So with lots of use cases for cost forecasting and work in progress and all sorts of things that might be useful. But sometimes what you're trying to do is get detail in. I want to get an estimate into Sage, or reverse out an estimate, or I want to get my payroll time in, timesheets, or whatever it is you happen to want. Then you can assemble the data in detail format here, and then with a click of a button, it will create the transactions. What it does is it creates an import file so that that data can be sent to Sage in detail, so you don't have to manually enter it. So those are the other two aspects of the Office Connector product suite that you can then add or have that go with all of this. So coming back to the PowerPoint slide, I just want to summarize that these are the value propositions of that financials that we talked about. They're listed right here. Over here in the left column is the financials, is the legacy that comes with Sage. Here are all the many benefits of Office Connector financials. These are those roadblocks that we were talking about. And as you see, we have addressed each one, right? So we have the ability to pull the data from Sage and place it where we want. We can build it in the correct format at once and then just refresh the data. So you don't have to worry about that. The financial information for the future or past is addressed with query and financials. One investment and you benefit on an ongoing basis. Manually inputting data into Sage, we have the ability to write and import that data back in. So then you just have to identify where your pain point is, and we can identify what the right technology, right off Selector technology for you. And then produce and edit reports. It's wizard driven, and you saw me create what I created. So this is your peers out there who have utilized the technology. We think it's mostly because of how easy it is to set up, learn, and use, but it also is the ability to collaborate, which is very important in our current situation out there. And these are the licenses that we talked about: the query, the write, and import. And really, I think we're at the point where we could start taking questions if there are any, or you can let them know how they could get pricing.
Yeah, let me, I'll just sum up. There's a couple of questions here. I'll just sum them up with this. For specific situations with your business, just reach out to me. My email's right there, or you're welcome to call me. We can have that conversation. Same thing with pricing. Pricing's really standard, but there are certain packages that reduce the pricing that most companies, it's quite a benefit to. And then the other kind of question that came across, this isn't the exact question, but basically, we're not going to sell you the software and say, here, have fun. We're here to train you on it and to take you and hold your hand through the process. So this isn't something you have to figure out. Even if you are an Excel expert, we're still going to show you how to run and operate this software, and even help you set up reports as you deem necessary. So thank you, everybody, for your attendance today. James, any last words?
No, thank you. Look forward to anything else. And again, if they want links to presentations on how to use this with like cash flow or forecasting or whatever else they might want to do, we have those things recorded. Sage you can get them and out to the customers.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, James. We appreciate you being here today, and for all those in attendance, thank you for your time. Everybody, stay safe and have a great day.
Thanks, Troy. Take care.